So the Jewish philosopher Maimonides, the Rambam, had a subtle approach to how do we hear God, and he said that God speaks to those who put themselves in a place where they can hear Him. So I really like that, and so only a few select individuals have placed themselves in a position to be able to hear God. You have to like tune into God's frequency. So I was just thinking about what about for us ordinary folks? How do we hear God? And I think a lot of it comes down to the word disposition, right? Do we put ourselves on the frequency where we can hear God? For example, in my experience, I'm not able to access God nearly as easily at Dodger Stadium as at synagogue or a church or at Yosemite or in nature. So the place I put myself has a tremendous amount to effect on my ability to hear God. So most of the people I know who have no experience of God, no belief in God, never seem to place themselves in a position to hear God. So I think some places God is much more accessible than other places. There may even be rooms in your apartment or your home that are more sacred than others. Like if you fill your room with sacred art, sacred books, sacred objects, I think you're going to have a much easier time accessing God in such a room than in, say, your work room where you've just got your accounting books and your work related books and your work related tools. I don't hear God nearly as easily when I'm absorbed watching a sporting event or watching Game of Thrones or some thrilling entertainment or some late breaking news, watching election results for an important election. I'm not really hearing God. But so I think the place you put yourself has a lot to do with your ability to access God and then your disposition. So if you're sunk in your addictions to, say, overeating, under-earning, debting, sexing, porning, drugging, drinking, obviously, even if those addictions are just one facet of your life, I think that's going to have significant effect on your ability to hear God. If you're cheating in business, if you're leading a double life, if you're afraid of people finding out who you really are, if you're doing if you're being unnecessarily cruel and exploitive in one area of your life, I think that will overall have an effect on your ability to access God in all areas of your life. So, are you placing yourself in a disposition, an orientation to want to hear God? So, of course, prayer, meditation, Bible study, religious study, religious participation, 12-step meetings, listening to spiritual talks are all ways to access God. But if you're doing all that, but you're jerking off to porn every night, I think in the end you're either going to keep wanking and give up prayer, or you're going to keep praying and give up wanking. Like one tends to impinge on the other. Then I think we access God very differently during the hours of the day. So when we get up, the early part of the day, that's when we have the most willpower. Perhaps we're the most like rational. This is when we are most in a position to get done the most difficult parts of our day. Like first thing, you want to tackle first things first, right? And then as the day goes on, our willpower steadily declines or bump up a bit after a meal. But as the day goes on, we have less and less and less willpower. On the other hand, we get our strikes of creativity in the late afternoon and the evening. So our inhibitions are down. Our willpower is down. And when our willpower and inhibitions are down, that also, I think, leaves more room for strikes of creativity or just strikes of divine communication. I think we will hear more unexpected messages from God in the late afternoon or the evening or the very early morning. I used to have a lot of 2 a.m. moments where I'd suddenly get like these strikes of intuition from God, and I'd be horrified at the state of my life. I'd be horrified by the pain of this moral clarity that I'd get from God at 2 a.m. So I think we'll get more intuitive messages from God late afternoon, evening, early morning. And in the morning, we get more prosaic, rational approach to God and to spirituality. So as the willpower declines, as our inhibitions decline, as the day goes along, perhaps we open up more to being able to hear what God wants to say to us. So we have more access to creativity and I think perhaps even to God in the evening as opposed to the daylight hours. So put your ideas in the comments. Bye bye.